Hi, it's Carly McAvoy. I want to talk about types of studies that researchers can use to make generalizations about the population that they're interested in. The first type is an experiment. In an experiment, you apply some treatment and then you observe its effect on the subjects, which are sometimes called experimental units. Subjects don't have to be people. In the first example I have, 2,075 subjects were given a vaccine to see if it would prevent flu. That would be an experiment because they gave them the vaccine and then waited to see if they would get the flu or not. The second one, the length of time of a green light was changed to reduce accidents. So maybe this is a particular intersection where there's a high incidence of accidents and they decide to leave the green light a little bit longer to see if that can change anything. That's an experiment because they changed the length of time. One group is given a placebo while the other is given an experimental drug. That's definitely an experiment. It's a specific kind of experiment where you have a control group, which is taking a placebo, which means something that doesn't really have any medicine or whatever in it, but people think they might be taking that. You may have heard of the placebo effect before. So an experiment, you do something and then watch to see what effect it has. That's what an experiment is. The other hand, we can just do observational studies. And there's more than one kind of observational study, but in the observational study, you're just observing or measuring specific characteristics, but you're not attempting to modify what you're studying. So an example, researchers counted the number of people attending the game in the team's color. So they just maybe stood outside the door and watched people go in and made note of that. They didn't change it. They didn't tell people whether they were going to do it. They just wanted to find out. Maybe you would do that if you were selling the team's gear and you wanted to know how many people are actually wearing that. The second one is the number of cars passing through the intersection were recorded to determine the feasibility of creating a traffic circle. This also makes sense, right? We're not changing anything, but we're just watching. Is there enough cars here to warrant the money that it would take to change that? So observational studies, we're not doing anything and then watching the effect. We're just going and observing. It makes sense that it's called observational. You can have a cross-sectional observational study. A cross-sectional study is a type of observational study that analyzes data from a population or a representative subset at a specific point in time, and that is cross-sectional data. For instance, researchers look at the difference in SAT scores in 2017 between middle-class students who were attending public versus private schools. So they try to find a similar population, but hey, some of them went to public, some went to private, and we're going to look and see how those two fared at this particular second. The study recorded the BMI of 3,000 men between the ages of 50 and 52. So we're looking at something at a specific point in time. So at one time, we're going to go and look at these 3,000 men, and we're going to observe what their BMI is. We haven't put them on diets first or had them exercise first. We're just taking them and looking at that immediate thing. A retrospective or case control study looks backwards and examines exposures to suspected risk or protection factors in relation to an outcome that is established at the start of the study. So maybe if you're studying cancer, you take and look at the past employments for 250 women who had the same type of cancer. Obviously, in that case, you're trying to see if this particular type of employment might lead to this type of cancer. Or researchers recorded the education level of the incarcerated population. So you already have these people that are incarcerated, and then you look backwards retrospectively to see how much education they had and see maybe if education level has to do with incarceration levels. Prospective study is a study watches for outcomes such as the development of a disease during the study period and relates this to other factors such as suspected risk or protection factors. Study usually involves taking a cohort of subjects and watching them over a long period of time. The study included 280 subjects whose brain cognition was tested over a 20-year period. So they go and they get people and they say, hey, would you be part of this? And then they watch them. Maybe it's an Alzheimer's long-term perspective study, and they study these people to see what happens as time passes. Or 1,000 babies were checked once a year for 6 years for symptoms of autism. So I broke down the types of observational studies. There are different types of experiments too, blind and double blind and all that. But for now, just knowing experiment, recognizing something as an experiment or as an observational study is what I'm looking for. Have a fantastic day.